I said. But Stiffy, you can't ask a curate to go about pinching policemen's helmets. Why not? Well, it's most unusual. You'll get the poor bird unfrocked. Unfrocked? It's something they do to parsons when they catch them bending. And this will inevitably be the outcome of the frightful task you have apportioned to the sainted Harold. I don't see that it's a frightful task. You aren't telling me that it's the sort of thing that comes naturally to curates. Yes, I am. It ought to be right up Harold Street. When he was at Magdalen, before he saw the light, he was the dickens of a chap, always doing things like that. Her mention of Magdalen interested me. It had been my own college. Magdalen man, is he? What year? Perhaps I know him. Of course you do. He often speaks of you, and was delighted when I told him you were coming here. Harold Pinker. I was astounded. Harold Pinker? Old stinker Pinker? Great Scott! One of my dearest pals. I've often wondered where he got to. And all the while he had sneaked off and become a curate. It just shows you how true it is that one half of the world doesn't know how the other 3/4 lives. Stinker Pinker, by Jove, you really mean that old Stinker cures souls? Certainly, and jolly well too. The Nibs thinks very highly of him. Any moment now he may get a vicarage, and then watch his smoke. He'll be a bishop some day. The excitement of discovering a long-lost body waned. I found myself returning to practical issues. I became grave. And I'll tell you why I became grave. It was all very well for Stiffy to say that this thing would be right up old Stinker's street. She didn't know him as I did. I had watched Harold Pinker through the formative years of his life, and I knew him for what he was, a large, lumbering Newfoundland puppy of a chap. Full of zeal, yes. Always doing his best, true. But never quite able to make the grade. A man, in short, who, if there was a chance of bungling an enterprise and landing himself in the soup, would snatch at it. At the idea of him being turned on to perform the extraordinarily delicate task of swiping Constable Oates's helmet, the blood froze. He hadn't a chance of getting away with it. I thought of Stinker the youth, built rather on the lines of Roderick Spode. He had played rugby football not only for his university but also for England, and at the art of hurling an opponent into a mud puddle and jumping on his neck with cleated boots, he had had few, if any, superiors. If I had wanted someone to help me out with the mad bull, he would have been my first choice. If by some mischance I had found myself trapped in the underground den of the Secret Nine, there was nobody I would rather have seen coming down the chimney than the Reverend Harold Pinker. But mere thews and sinews do not qualify a man to pinch policemen's helmets. You need finesse. He will he? I said. A fat lot of bitching he's going to do if he's caught sneaking helmets from members of his flock. He won't be caught. Of course he'll be caught. At the old alma mater he was always caught. He seemed to have no notion whatsoever of going about a thing in a subtle, tactful way. Chuck it, Stiffy. Abandon the whole project. No, Stiffy. No, the show must go on. I gave it up. I could see plainly that it would be a mere waste of time to try to argue her out of her girlish daydreams. She had the same type of mind, I perceived, as Roberta Wickham, who once persuaded me to go by night to the bedroom of a fellow guest at a country house and puncture his hot water bottle with a darning needle on the end of a stick. Well, if it must be, I suppose, I said resignedly. But at least impress upon him that it is essential, when pinching policeman's helmet, to give a forward shove before applying the upwards lift. Otherwise the subject's chin catches in the strap. It was to overlooking this vital point that my own downfall in Leicester Square was due. The strap caught, the cock was enabled to turn and clutch, and before I knew what had happened, I was in the dock saying, "Yes, Your Honour," and "No, Your Honour," to your Uncle Watkin. I fell into a thoughtful silence, and as I brooded on the dark future lying in wait for an old friend, I'm not a weak man, but I was beginning to wonder if I had been right in squelching so curtly Jeeves's efforts to get me off on a round-the-world cruise. Whatever you may say against these excursions, the cramped conditions of shipboard, the possibility of getting mixed up with a crowd of bores, the nuisance of having to go and look at the Taj Mahal, at least there is this to be said in their favour. Did you escape the mental agony of watching innocent curates dishing their careers and forfeiting all chance of rising to great heights in the church by getting caught bonneting the parishioners? I heaved a sigh and resumed the conversation. So, you and Stinker are engaged, are you? Why didn't you tell me when you lunched at the flat? Oh, it hadn't happened then. Oh, Bertie, I'm so happy I could bite a grape. At least I shall be, if we can get Uncle Watkin thinking along bless you my children lines. Oh, yes, you were saying, weren't you, about him being sweetened? How do you mean, sweetened? That's what I want to have a talk with you about. You remember what I said in my telegram about there being something I wanted you to do for me? I started. A well-defined uneasiness crept over me. I had forgotten all about that telegram of hers. It's something quite simple. I doubted it. I mean to say, if her idea of a suitable job for curates was the pinching of policemen's helmets, what sort of an assignment, I could not but ask myself, was she likely to hand to me? It seemed that the moment had come for a bit of in-the-bud nipping. Oh, yes, I said. Well, let me tell you here and now that I'm jolly well not going to do it. Yellow, eh? Bright yellow, like my Aunt Agatha. What's the matter with her? She's got jaundice. Enough to give her jaundice having a nephew like you. Why, you don't even know what it is. I would prefer not to know. Well, I'm going to tell you. I do not wish to listen. Would you rather I unleashed Bartholomew? I notice he has been looking at you in that odd way of his. I don't believe he likes you. He does take sudden dislikes to people. The Woosters are brave, but not rash. I allowed her to lead me to the stone wall that bordered the terrace, and we sat down. The evening, I remember, was one of perfect tranquillity, featuring a sort of serene peace, which just shows you. I won't keep you long, she said. It's all quite simple and straightforward. I shall have to begin, though, by telling you why we have had to be so dark and secret about the engagement. That's Gus's fault. What has he done? Just being Gussie, that's all. Just gone about with no chin, goggling through his spectacles and keeping newts in his bedroom. You can understand Uncle Watkin's feelings. His daughter tells him she is going to get married. Oh, yes, he says, let's have a deco at the chap. And along rolls Gussie. A nasty jar for a father. Quite. Well, you can't tell me that a time when he is reeling under the blow of having Gussie for a son-in-law is the moment for breaking it to him that I want to marry the curate. I saw her point. I recollected Freddie Threepwood telling me that there had been trouble at Blandings about a cousin of his wanting to marry a curate. In that case, I gathered, the strain had been eased by the discovery that the fellow was the heir of a Liverpool shipping millionaire. But as a broad general rule, parents do not like their daughters marrying curates, and I take it that the same thing applies to uncles with their nieces. You've got to face it, curates are not so hot. So before anything can be done in the way of removing the veil of secrecy, we have got to sell Harold to Uncle Watkin. If we play our cards properly, I'm hoping he will give him a vicarage, which he has in his gift. Then we shall begin to get somewhere. I did not like her use of the word we, but I saw what she was driving at, and I was sorry to have to insert a spanner in her hopes and dreams. You wish me to put a word in for Stinker. You would like me to draw your uncle aside and tell him what a splendid fellow Stinker is. There is nothing I would enjoy more, my dear Stiffy, but unfortunately we are not on those terms. No, nothing like that. I don't see what more I can do. You will, she said. And again I was conscious of that subtle feeling of uneasiness. I told myself that I must be firm, but I could not but remember Robert Wickham and the hot water bottle. A man thinks he is being chilled steel, or adamant, if you prefer the expression, and suddenly the mists clear away, and he finds that He has allowed a girl to talk him into something frightful. Samson had the same experience with Delilah. Oh, I said guardedly. She paused in order to tickle the dog Bartholomew under the left ear. And then she resumed. Just praising Harold to Uncle Watkin isn't any use. You need something much cleverer than that. You want to engineer some terrifically brainy scheme that will put him over with a bang. I thought I had got it a few days ago. Do you ever read Milady's Boudoir? I once contributed an article to it on what the well-dressed man is wearing. But I'm not a regular reader. Why? There was a story in it last week about a duke who wouldn't let his daughter marry the young secretary. So the secretary got a friend of his to take the duke out on the lake and upset the boat. And then he dived in and saved the duke, and the duke said, "Righto." I resolved that no time should be lost in quashing this idea. Any notion you may have entertained that I am going to take Sir W. Bassett out in a boat and upset him can be dismissed instanter. To start with, he wouldn't come out on a lake with me. No, and we haven't got a lake. And Harold said that if I was thinking of the pond in the village, I could forget it, as it was much too cold to dive into ponds at this time of year. Harold is funny in some ways. I applaud his sturdy common sense. Then I got an idea from another story. It was about a young lover who gets a friend of his to dress up as a tramp and attack the girl's father. Then he dashes in and rescues him. I patted her hand gently. The flaw in all these ideas of yours, I pointed out, is that the hero always seems to have a half-witted friend who is eager to place himself in the foulest positions on his behalf. In Stinker's case, this is not so. I am fond of Stinker. You would even go so far as to say that I love him like a brother. But there are sharply defined limits to what I am prepared to do to further his interests. Well, it doesn't matter, because he put the presidential veto on that one too. Something about what the vicar would say if it all came out. But he loves my new one. Oh, you've got a new one? Yes, and it's terrific. The beauty of it is that Harold's part in it is above reproach. 1,000 vicars couldn't get the goods on him. The only snag was that he has to have someone working with him, and until I heard you were coming down here, I couldn't think who we'd to get. But now you've arrived, all is well. It is it? I informed you before, young Byng, and I now inform you again that nothing will induce me to mix myself up with your loathsome schemes. Oh, but Bertie, you must. We were relying on you. And all you have to do is practically nothing. Just steal Uncle Watkin's cow creamer. I don't know what you would have done. If a girl in heather mixture tweeds had sprung this on you, scarcely 8 hours after a mauve-faced aunt had sprung the same. It is possible that you would have reeled. Most chaps would, I imagine. Personally, I was more amused than aghast. Indeed, if memory serves me aright, I laughed. If so, it was just as well, for it was about the last chance I had. Oh, yes, I said. Tell me more, I said, feeling that it would be entertaining to allow the little blighter to run on. Steal his cow creamer, eh? Yes, it's a thing he brought back from London yesterday for his collection, a sort of silver cow with a kind of blotto look on its face. He thinks the world of it. He had it on the table in front of him at dinner last night, was gassing away about it. And it was then that I got the idea. I thought that if Harold could pinch it and then bring it back, Uncle Watkin would be so grateful that he would start spouting vicarages like a geezer. And then I spotted the catch. Oh, there was a catch? Of course, don't you see? How would Harold be supposed to have got the thing? I mean, if a silver cow is in somebody's collection and it disappears, and the next day a curate rolls round with it, that curate has got to do some good quick explaining. Obviously, it must look like an outside job. I see. You want me to put on a black mask and break in through the window and snitch this objet d'art and hand it over to Stinker. I see. I see. I spoke with satirical bitterness. And I should have thought that anyone could have seen that satirical bitterness was what I was speaking with. but she merely looked at me with admiration and approval. "You are clever, Bertie. That's exactly it. Of course, you needn't wear a mask." "You don't think it would help me throw myself into the part?" I said with SB, as before. "Well, it might, but that's up to you. But the great thing is to get through the window. Wear gloves, of course, because of the fingerprints." "Of course." "Then Harold will be waiting outside, and he will take the thing from you. And after that, I go off and do my stretch in Dartmoor." "Oh no, you escape in the struggle, of course." "What struggle?" "And Harold rushes into the house all over blood." "Whose blood?" "Well, I said yours, and Harold thought his. There have got to be signs of a struggle to make it more interesting, and my idea was that he should hit you on the nose. But he said the thing would carry greater weight if he was all covered with gore. So how we've left it is that you both hit each other on the nose, and then Harold rouses the house and comes in and shows Uncle Watkin the cow creamer and explained what happened, and everything's fine. Because, I mean, Uncle Watkin couldn't just say, 'Oh, thanks,' and leave it at that, could he? He would be compelled, if he had a spark of decency in him, to cough up that vicarage. Don't you think it's a wonderful scheme, Bertie?" I rose. My face was cold and hard. "Most, but I'm sorry." "You don't mean you won't do it, now that you see that it will cause practically no inconvenience at all? It would only take 10 minutes of your precious time." "I do mean I won't do it." "Well, I think you're a pig." "A pig, maybe, but a shrewd, level-headed pig. I wouldn't touch the project with a barge pole. I tell you, I know Stinker. Exactly how he would muck the thing up and get us all landed in the jug, I cannot say, but he would find a way. And now I'll have that book, if you don't mind." "What book? Oh, that one of Gus's?" "Yes." "What do you want it for?" "I want it," I said gravely, "because Gussie is not fit to be in charge of it. He might lose it again, in which event it might fall into the hands of your uncle, in which event he would certainly kick the stuffing out of Gussie Madeline wedding arrangements, in which event I would be up against it as few men have ever been up against it before." "You?" "None other." "How do you come into it?" "I will tell you." And in a few terse words I outlined for her the events which had taken place at Brinkley Court, the situation which had arisen from those events, and the hideous peril which threatened me if Gus's entry were to be scratched. "You will understand," I said, "that I am implying nothing derogatory to your cousin Madeline when I say that the idea of being united to her in the bonds of holy wedlock is one that freezes the gizzard. The fact is in no way to her discredit. I should feel just the same about marrying many of the world's noblest women. There are certain females whom one respects, admires, reveres, but only from a distance. If they show any signs of attempting to come closer, one is prepared to fight them off with a blackjack. It is to this group that your cousin Madeline belongs. A charming girl, and the ideal mate for Augustus Finknottle, but ants in the pants to Bertram." She drank this in. "I see. Well, yes, I suppose Madeline is a bit of a God help us." The expression God help us is one that I would not have gone so far as to use myself, for I think a chivalrous man ought to stop somewhere. But since you have brought it up, I admit that it covers the facts. I never realised that that was how things were. No wonder you want that book." "Exactly." "Well, all this has opened up a new line of thought." That grave, dreamy look had come into her face. See, she massaged the dog Bartholomew's spine with a pensive foot. "Come on," I said, chafing at the delay. "Slip it across." "Just a moment. I'm trying to straighten it all out in my mind. You know, Bertie, I really ought to take that book to Uncle Watkin." "What?" "That's what my conscience tells me to do. After all, I owe a lot to him. For years he has been a second father to me, and he ought to know how Gussie feels about him, oughtn't he? I mean to say, a bit tough on the old buster, cherishing what he thinks is a harmless newt fancier in his bosom, when all the time it's a snake that goes about criticising the way he drinks soup. However, as you're being so sweet and are going to help Harold and me by stealing that cow creamer, I suppose I shall have to stretch a point. We Woosters are pretty quick. I don't suppose it was more than a couple of minutes before I figured out what she meant. I read her purpose and shuddered. She was naming the price of the papers. In other words, after being blackmailed by an aunt at breakfast, I was now being blackmailed by a female crony before dinner. Pretty good going, even for this lax post-war period. "Stiffy?" I cried. "It's no good saying stiffy. Either you sit in and do your bit, or Uncle Watkin gets some racy light reading over his morning eggs and coffee. Think it over, Bertie." She hoisted the dog Bartholomew to his feet and trickled off towards the house. The last I saw of her was a meaning look directed at me over her shoulder, and it went through me like a knife. I had slumped back onto the wall and sat there stunned. Just how long I don't know, but it was a goodish time. Winged creatures of the night barged into me, but I gave them little attention. It was not till a voice suddenly spoke a couple of feet or so above my bowed head that I came out of the coma. "Good evening, Wooster," said the voice. I looked up. The cliff-like mass looming over me was Roderick Spode. I suppose even dictators have their chummy moments when they put their feet up and relax with the boys. But it was plain from the outset that if Roderick Spode had a sunnier side, he had not come with any idea of exhibiting it now. His manner was curt. One sensed the absence of the bonhomous note. "I should like a word with you, Wooster." "Oh, yes?" "I've been talking to Sir Watkin Bassett and he's told me the whole story of the cow creamer." "Oh, yes?" "And we know why you are here." "Oh, yes?" "Stop saying 'oh yes,' you miserable worm, and listen to me." Many chaps might have resented this tone. I did myself, as a matter of fact, but you know how it is. There are some fellows who are right on your toes to tick off when they call you a miserable worm. Others, not quite so much. "Oh, yes," he said, saying it himself. Dash it. "It is perfectly plain to us why you are here. You have been sent by your uncle to steal the cow creamer for him. You needn't trouble to deny it. I found you with the thing in your hands this afternoon, and now we learn your aunt is arriving. The muster of the vultures, huh?" He paused a moment, and then repeated, "The muster of the vultures," as if he thought pretty highly of it as a gag. I couldn't see that it was so very hot myself. "Well, what I came to tell you, Wooster, is that you are being watched closely. And if you are caught stealing that cow creamer, I can assure you that you will go to prison. You need entertain no hope that Sir Watkin will shrink from creating a scandal. He will do his duty as a citizen and a justice of the peace." Here he laid a hand upon my shoulder, and I can't remember when I have experienced anything more unpleasant. Apart from what Jeeves would have called the symbolism of the action, he had a grip like the bite of a horse. "Did you say, 'oh yes'?" he asked. "Oh no," I assured him. "Good. Now, what are you saying to yourself, no doubt, is that you will not be caught. You imagine that you and this precious aunt of yours will be clever enough, between you, to steal the cow creamer without being detected. It will do you no good, Wooster. If the thing disappears, however cunningly you and your female accomplice may have covered your traces, I shall know where it has gone, and I shall immediately beat you to a jelly. To a jelly," he repeated, rolling the words round his tongue as if they were a vintage port. "To a jelly. Have I got that clear?" "Oh, quite." "You sure you understand?" "Oh, definitely." "Splendid." A dim figure was approaching across the terrace, and he changed his tone to one of rather sickening geniality. "What a lovely evening it is it not? Extraordinarily mild for the time of year. Well, I mustn't keep you any longer. You will be wanting to go and dress for dinner. Just a black tie. We are quite informal here." "Yes?" The word was addressed to the dim figure. A familiar cough revealed its identity. "I wish to speak to Mr. Wooster, sir. I have a message for him from Mrs. Travers. Mrs. Travers presents her compliments, sir, and desires me to say that she is in the blue room, and would be glad if you would make it convenient to call upon her there as soon as possible. She has a matter of importance which she wishes to discuss. I heard Spode snort in the darkness. So Mrs. Travers has arrived? Yes, sir. And has a matter of importance... And has a matter of importance to discuss with Mr. Wooster? Yes, sir. Ha! Said Spode, and biffed off with a sort of sharp laugh. I rose from my seat. Jeeves, I said, stand to counsel and advise. The plot has thickened.